Welcome to episode 56 of Accessible Finance, where we demystify personal financial topics and answer your questions so you leave saying, I get it now. I'm Eric Johns.
And I'm Rachel John.
Let's dive in.
All right. So, Eric, I have been browsing Reddit and various Facebook groups,
Okay.
and I've seen a huge uptick, and it's not a surprise given the fact that we are slowly and gracefully aging. A huge uptick in people who are falling into what we would call like the sandwich generation, right?
Okay.
So the sandwich generation is people who are simultaneously caring for aging parents and aging children.
That makes more sense than what I thought it was.
What did you think it was?
People that like sandwiches
Well, they might like sandwiches
or
too.
grew up with sandwiches.
I grew up with sandwiches.
Yeah.
What's your favorite sandwich?
Favorite sandwich?
Yeah.
That's tough. I like club sandwiches.
That's true.
Um,
I thought you were going to go with something from Mother's.
yeah, Mother's
Okay.
Ferdy.
That was a
Yeah,
little bit-
let's go with that.
Okay. New Orleans
Big fan.
classic. So the sandwich generation is really for the individuals who are sandwiched between two groups of people in their lives who are needing increasing levels of support and guidance, both financially, emotionally, all the things.
Okay.
So there's some interesting statistics that I found when I was doing it. I went and researched because I was interested. And the Pew Research Center says that 47% of adults in their 40s and 50s are financially supporting a child and a parent at the same time.
That sounds not great.
Sounds really stressful.
Yes.
Right.
Would not love that.
And so one of the comments that I saw on Reddit post was like, I feel like I'm like coming apart. I'm saving for college, a retirement home, and therapy for me. Like, what am I supposed to do?
It's real.
It is. And so, caring for both ends of the spectrum, I think, comes with a variety of challenges on steroids, right? So, like time management on both ends, emotional stress, financial strain.
Yeah. Pressure on the cash flow sounds really rough there.
Correct. And then on top of the pressure on the cash flow, a Harris poll revealed that 30% of sandwich generation caregivers had to miss work due to caregiving responsibilities. So you're starting to run out of PTO or anything like that, and it's not being used for your own care.
Boy, that's rough.
Yeah. And so an average mom, they say, spends about 20 minutes a day looking for lost items. And that is in a vacuum, right? That is without having to care for the other people. So there's also this kind of hidden.
Is the assumption that the dad spends 0 minutes a day looking for lost items?
Okay, but how often do you spend looking for lost items?
I don't lose my stuff.
Okay, your luckily
it has to find my iPhone, so we're happy.
That you need me to help you do. But yeah.
Touche.
And then there was even a Reddit post of this poor woman who was trying to in one day teach her mother how to use FaceTime while teaching her teenage daughter how to drive. And after hours, she was like, I'm done. Like, my mom should just stick to driving. My daughter needs to stick to FaceTime. Like, there's no reason that they need to learn to do the other one. So there's a lot that's going on there. And so one of the last things that I think that they're necessarily thinking about is, I'm sure they're constantly thinking about like, what things can I get off of my plate?
Okay.
Right. But with the amount of daily like emotional toll that's being taken, some of the logistics and some of the practical stuff that can be helped with are probably kind of taking a back burner. Like they're on the back burner. So the interesting thing was that someone had replied on one of the posts saying you should look into like working with a professional. And so the woman initially took it as like a mental professional. And so he elaborated on working with a financial planner in particular. And so I thought it would be really interesting to talk about the unique position that someone in the sandwich generation is in, and how you're looking at a holistic financial planning approach that supports both the person who is retired or who's needing some long-term care, as well as that sandwich generation person who's simultaneously trying to financially plan their own life and the life of their kids. So I thought that it would be useful for us to kind of go through some of the ways that a financial professional. I mean, we can really only speak to
That's what we would do. Sure.
correct. But some of the ways that we might think about helping somebody in that situation.
Okay. I mean, the kids are going to be 529 and maximize. You put on your own, life jacket, I guess, or the airplane mask, right? Like, so you're going to plan for your own retirement and plan for their college. That's reasonable for the
Sure.
kids. And then we're just talking cash flow constraints that they're going to, kids need to eat and wear clothes and go to school and,
Correct.
have a place. So kids are going to provide the cash flow constraints, but in terms of like planning for your parents, that's a very interesting topic and one that we encounter quite regularly. And it's better to be on the front end. You'd rather be ahead of the ball
Proactive.
behind it here. So
100%.
so some of the why would I say that? So powers of attorney and wills and a lot of estate planning documents are infinitely harder or impossible to put in place after the fact, right? Like you
Yes.
can't do it if
Yes.
there is an estate.
By the
But
time that you
also,
realize the acute need for one of those
right,
documents, it's usually
right.
too
When you
late to create
realize,
it.
oh wait, I need power of attorney because my parents' cognition has declined
Correct.
or completely, vanished,
Yeah.
right? Now I can't get a power of attorney because they're not in their sound legal mind.
Correct. They're not competent enough to sign something legally binding.
Sure. So you want to get the POAs in place on the front
Mhm.
end at least.
Yep.
You'd like to be able to talk to them about their financial planning before it becomes your problem, right? So what do I mean by that? Like, I'm not saying that everybody should go and ask their parents to open their whole financial playbook and tell them everything because that would be kind of a rough conversation. But I guess
Correct.
that is kind of the implication. Like that's kind of the suggestion. And why would I say that? I'm not saying tell them everything, but make sure that you believe they have a sound understanding of what's going on, and at least make them aware of the landscape that they're entering.
Yeah.
So what do I specifically, right? And we know this because we've seen the mailers, and our parents have gotten the mailers. They
Our
will be
poor
invited.
neighbor ended up,
Yeah.
sorry, side note. Our poor neighbor, when he moved in, ended up putting our address on all of his mail. So we get his mail regularly. He has since passed, but we still receive a lot of his mail,
Yep.
and we are
If they're in the
regularly
if
being
they're in the Metairie and Kinner area, they're going to be invited to a
Austin's
seminar with
regular
Austin's or Fleming's every other week.
every week. Yeah,
And
exactly.
why is that bad? Like those are fine restaurants. Like
Yeah,
why is that unfavorable for your parents?
yeah,
Because they're pitching financial products, specifically annuities, right? Might your parents need an annuity? Wow, I can't speak today. Might your parents need an annuity? Yeah, maybe,
absolutely.
but
Is
not
it
definitely.
guaranteed? Well, and I think that that's one of the things that we've seen, and there's an entire you know, aspect of the law that deals with um, elder abuse and things like that. However, um, it becomes a lot less cut and dry when you're looking at finances and financial things because it's a lot more gray. And I think that
Even so, you have to go
oftentimes,
litigate it too, right? Like that's going to
correct,
cost you money and time, and
correct.
you might still never win.
Well, and I think what's hard is that, as parents, I think we pride ourselves in knowing the things and being able to teach our kids. And so being able to reach a point where you're having these vulnerable conversations with your kids, I mean, that's hard.
It's rough.
And so to say, look, I'm not sure what the right decision is, or to have that conversation, I think it's awkward and challenging for both parties, right?
Sure.
Like as a kid, it's hard. It's weird calling ourselves kids, but like we both have,
Feels like it's
moms,
well in the rearview mirror at this point.
but we both have mothers that we really care about. And I think it's challenging because you want to have a conversation with your parents and say, I love you. I want to make sure you're taken care of. I want to make sure that I can support you and that we get trusted professionals surrounding you without seeming like you're like, where's my inheritance? How's my inheritance?
Right.
Like,
You don't want to seem greedy, and you definitely don't want to seem accusatory. Like you have no idea what you're doing.
exactly,
Let me take the
exactly.
reins because you have no clue what's going on.
Exactly. I mean, when I was 6, I straight up told my
It's
parents, like,
yeah, that's a great way to get told to take a walk.
when I was 6, I literally told my
Makes those
parents, like,
Christmases real
you're
fun.
old. You're older than other parents. Like, I'll take care of my sister when you guys pass,
Right.
but who's taking care of me? And, I think you can get away with a little more when you're 6. Like, when you're 40 and 50 and having those
It's gonna
conversations,
be rough.
it's so hard. It's so hard. And
It's
so
gonna be
how do you
brutal.
have that conversation in a really sensitive way? And so I think that enlisting the help of some professionals who can really have a concrete conversation that doesn't seem like, what do you have? Like, am I getting my inheritance?
Sure.
Make sure you're not spending it. But is
Just make sure they're
really
doing things the right way.
correct, and making sure that we maximize the amount of hard-earned money that ends up remaining in your
Mhm.
pockets. I think
Yeah, and if they're
it's
comfortable,
tough.
I mean, just I would say we would advocate, obviously, because we are fee-only fiduciaries, but you
Correct.
wanna go to a fee-only fiduciary, and what that
Yeah.
means what's the distinction there? Like, do they put on dinners at Fleming's? Yeah, maybe they could, I guess.
Potentially.
Like, we're not prohibited from doing that,
Correct.
but we're prohibited from taking commissions on products.
Correct.
So
Not
what
doing it to
you
sell
do
you an annuity.
right, like, what you do with your money should have no impact on what fee-only fiduciaries make.
Correct.
Right? That's how it works. So they should just be advocating what's in your best interest, or
Right.
theoretically, at least
The
for their pricing
idea
structure.
there is to really say, like, whether you do option A, B, or C, I end up with the same funds, so I'm not incentivized to
To
advocate
push
something you
A super
don't.
hard,
Yeah.
or push you instead. Maybe you need an annuity. Maybe we're gonna assume good faith on behalf of the annuity salesmen and
Yeah.
women of the world. Maybe you need 50K, right? Maybe your, like, risk tolerance, everything, we did the math, you need
Yeah.
50K, and you're happy with 50K. I'm still incentivized
To send
as a
me
salesman
100.
to push it, just to
Yes.
push that number, like, "Okay, why not 75? Why
My
not
number
100?
goes
What
up
about
if
3?"
yours does.
Right,
Exactly.
so it's just there's just some kind of perverse incentives there,
Mhm.
right? So the instruction's a little awkward, and our point was simply to say, "Hey, look, this is happening." Like, they're gonna get bombed with
Correct.
that, as we all know, they're gonna get bombed with phishing attempts
Correct.
on, like, regularly. So,
Constantly.
things like freezing their credit could make a lot of sense.
Yep.
What does that do? That means that when people go and try to open up new credit in their name, they can't until it's unfrozen with the bureaus, and in
Yep.
order to do that, you have to jump through a lot of boxes. If anybody's ever, answered those questions,
Right.
where did
Makes
you
it
live in
hard to even
2023,
log into those accounts.
2003? Is this a street you've lived on and it's got a bunch of stuff that's
I
obscure and maybe not even
honestly
you?
get stressed out trying to prove I am who I am.
Right. It's easy to lock yourself out. I've definitely done it.
Yeah.
Definitely done it. I didn't know I was listed on cards, and then, parents lived out of state, and I'm just like, "I've never lived in,
Yeah, I didn't live in
Florida."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But anyway, sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent, but the point is, your parents are getting bombarded with this stuff, whether you like it or not.
Correct.
It might be helpful.
And whether they share that information or not, they're
Right.
getting it.
Yeah, they're definitely getting it.
They're on lists.
Right. It might be constructive to ask them about their plan. Like,
Mhm.
"Hey, guys, look, have you thought about how much you're getting from Social Security? Is that gonna cover everything?
Mhm.
What's the overage? Do you have this stuff in 401k? Did you know?" Some of the things we talk about with clients, a lot of the stuff, since we're exposed to it on a daily basis,
Yeah.
we don't recognize anymore. Like, we're kind of separated from the time when we didn't know that these things were rules.
Yeah.
So, like, we now know, like, of course, it's a rule that you can roll your 401k into an IRA,
Sure.
and that they'll have essentially the same
Does the
treatment for
average
them.
person know that?
No,
Absolutely not.
and we didn't know that,
No.
15, 20 years ago. Like,
Right.
there's just no reason to know that, and it's not something you're gonna learn in school. But the point is, there are a lot of, min-maxy type opportunities, like some optimizations to be
Correct.
made. So, many Americans have the vast majority of their savings in tax-deferred accounts, which means they didn't pay tax on the front end, but when they pull the money out, they're gonna pay tax now.
Yep.
So, as your parents start to at least consider retirement, right? So they're older, maybe considering retirement, they're going to want to think about things like Roth conversion ladders. And
Mhm.
I know it's my favorite topic, so of course I'm going to talk about it a lot. But honestly, it's one of the most useful tools. It's one of the low
Yeah.
hanging fruit that will benefit almost everyone. Why? Because almost everyone will have most of their money in tax deferred accounts, because that
Correct.
essentially replaced pensions in the United States because it's
Right.
cheaper for companies.
And so that's what
Okay,
most of the
so
companies
so all that
offer.
has to be true for this to be a viable strategy, and one that you should minimally consider. Well, for you to minimally consider it, you just need to have a pulse.
We should just
But,
be a
like, yeah,
we should
just be
consider
alive,
everything.
right? But it's most advantageous for those that have large tax deferred balances
Yeah.
relative to their totals, or it's really just large in general. If it's
Correct.
large, you want to
Now,
make it less large.
define large for me. Like, if we're talking percent of net worth, what would you consider to be
It's
large in
more
tax deferred?
nominal, right? So we're thinking about nominal. We're thinking about,
Okay, so we're not
marginal effective
talking.
tax rates. But I'm
Sure.
thinking, like, if you have balances in excess of like $1 million,
Yeah.
in excess of even 500,000 in a lot of cases,
And in all
we just
honesty,
want to look
if
at your tax
you've
bracket
been
and
in
see.
the workforce since, even post college,
It'd be kind of hard
post
not to. Yeah,
exactly.
you're gonna be in this
You've
like
been
six
contributing to
percent.
a 401k
Yeah, you're gonna
for
contribute. You're gonna defer 5, 6, something somewhere in that ballpark percent, and the
yeah,
employer's gonna match like 3 or 4, right? So you're gonna
it's grown. I mean, it's the majority of people who have been in an employee like W-2 workforce
Right.
situation.
Compound growth over 40
Yeah,
years, that thing's going to double like, 5 times or so.
exactly. And so the thing is, if you're working with somebody again who is a fee only fiduciary, you're working with someone who's going to at least check the box of let's analyze if this is correct for you. And if
Mhm.
it's not, they will tell you that because it's in their best interest and yours.
Sure. Sorry. So I I digress as I
Yeah.
usually do and go into tangents.
But okay, so that's
One,
one of, yeah,
large tax deferred balance.
correct.
Two, there will be some number of years where between when you retire or stop collecting wages, and then when you either start collecting Social Security or experience RMDs or have to start taking RMDs.
Correct.
Okay. So what does
Correct.
that mean? Social Security, the latest that you can claim it viable. I mean, you can claim it, you can wait as late as you want, but if you wait past 70, you're not
There's
accruing any
no,
benefit. There's no
exactly.
additional benefit past 70.
Right.
So
So
you claim your
70
benefits at 70, or
and RMDs.
RMDs start at 73 for
Mhm.
like this generation. It's going to be 75 for us, but
Correct.
with current law,
But
the
let's say
idea is like
70 is the
70,
early end,
73.
right?
Sure, but maybe I
Let's
retire
say you're retiring at 65.
right.
So you have 5 years where you're not receiving W-2 or anything like that.
Right.
And you are also not receiving your Social Security or
Exactly.
RMDs. So you're not realizing a lot of income.
Right. And then Social Security, even when you do start realizing it is only 85% of it's taxable
Mhm. We'll
for
have an episode
everyone.
coming up about that as
Oh,
well.
we're diving into Social Security.
We
That's a fun
I,
topic. Everyone loves that.
we're gonna have one focused on, Social Security, especially to the end that like that alone will likely not be sufficient to fund your retirement.
Let me know because there are so many rules. I'm gonna have to read something for that one.
But
A little cheat sheet on hand.
like, and we've worked with people that are in this boat, right? Where you
Yep.
have potentially more than 5 years of a time period where you are not realizing income.
Right.
Your like taxable income has dipped down.
Yep.
And so there's a very relatively small window to take advantage of
Yeah.
some of
So
those
so and
benefits.
another thing that's actually really important to know is yes, that window does tend to close, or at least the magnitude of your Roth conversions will go down as you start to take Social Security and as you
Mhm.
start to have to take your RMDs. But there are still people
Mhm.
that we're doing Roth conversions for
Yep.
after the onset of RMDs.
Yeah.
Why will we do that? Because the amount that you're required to take from your tax deferred accounts through an RMD increases every year with age,
Mhm.
right? So if my RMD this year is 100,000, but I know in 2 years it's going to be minimally like 150,000 with baseline return assumptions on my tax deferred account, I might want to take a little bit more out this year if I'm going to be in the 22, 24% bracket. And then I know I'm going to be in the 32 when I get kicked out that
Correct.
150.
And
And then if we're thinking about the sunset of Tax Cuts and Jobs
yes,
Act that we talked about, 100
so
times.
much. And I think again, like it becomes a very personalized approach. And I'd be incredibly wary. Like if you're looking or you go to a meeting with your parents on behalf of your parents, you're meeting with a professional to try and make sure that they have somebody there. Anybody who's trying to kind of rule of thumb or one size fits all
Yeah.
plan, that's a
Man,
huge red flag,
I would say that's almost always incorrect.
like a
I think
wall.
that
Yeah,
probably just
I
is
would walk.
incorrect.
Well, and I mean, it has to be because there's so many factors that go into
Yeah, there are
planning.
infinite variables.
Even if, you're looking at 10 people in the same boat and a Roth conversion works for all of them. And we've done episodes about this. I don't want to dive into the weeds with this yet, but like,
You sure?
no, yes, yes. If we do, we'll never get out. But down to the dollar, it really, really matters when you're looking at the
Correct.
amounts to convert.
Yep, there are cliffs
Um,
with Irma.
Correct. There's so much. And so again, like we
You sure
talked,
we can't go into
no, I am. I am. We're gonna do look, we can link it to a previous, like if you're interested in our Roth conversions, we have a number of episodes. We'll probably be touching on it a bit more in our segments that are really targeting the people who are in their 40s and 50s, potentially 60s, who are really looking out for themselves and their parents.
Now I'm excited. You
Yeah.
told me Roth conversions was
Exactly. Are on
my
the they're
future.
on the horizon.
Good.
But again, yeah, exactly. So even if you're realizing a large RMD, it might even be more than your W-2 had been. It's still not necessarily a bad idea to do a Roth conversion because again, our goal is the lifetime like tax rate. We're trying to make sure that it remains flat.
Lifetime marginal effective tax rate.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
right.
So yeah, I think that's a really great point. So we talked about, the estate planning issues. We've talked about some of the tax issues that are there, various long-term care issues as well. Like, hopefully if you're working with a financial planner who's providing a holistic approach, they're also looking at, what your insurance plans are, your saving strategy, all of those things. I think
Yes.
it's crucial that if they're not looking at that, they're missing a huge part
Right.
of what needs to be looked at. And then there's also estate and legacy planning considerations.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that,
Yeah.
right? Like, so, I mean, if you're over the exemption, there's going to be a ton more. But even in Louisiana, one of the things we've mentioned before, but we'll reiterate here for those that haven't heard in the past,
Mm.
is the default treatment of kids in Louisiana. So this might matter to you from a just slightly greedy perspective, but it doesn't require your parents to do anything differently than they otherwise might have. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So just real quick, if there's what's called naked ownership and usufructuary. Did I
Yes.
say it right? No, usufructuary.
Yes. Use fructuary.
Thank you. I'm
Yes.
just not going to pronounce it and let you do it every
You
time.
got it.
Okay, usufructuary.
Yes.
I said I wasn't going to do it, but I did it, and I did it well, so I'm proud of myself. So we're going to keep going. So, usufructuary and naked ownership of accounts is the default treatment. What in the world does that mean, and why should you care?
Again,
Well,
as a disclaimer, this is very unique to Louisiana,
it's Louisiana, right?
but
So if you're not in Louisiana, you don't care. You
it's
can,
very important.
yeah, you can tune in next week,
No,
right?
don't do that. But it's hugely important.
This is incredibly important for Louisiana, and we'll just tell you very briefly why. Okay. Um, boy, I'm trying to be as concise as possible. Do you want to take it?
No,
You're pretty good at this.
I'll judge you.
Okay, judge me then. All right, I'm gonna try. Okay, so the default treatment in Louisiana
Yes.
is that if I die, my wife gets 50% of our community property, right? And then
Okay.
50% of that community property. Well, first man, that's hard. There's gonna be a full step up on all the community property. That's good. We're happy with that. My wife Rachel would get
Mhm.
50% of the community property. Great. My kids there would be the other 50% will be put into a usufructuary account where Rachel has complete control. She can do basically whatever she wants. Let's just say whatever she wants for now.
Mhm.
And then the kids, Connor, Adam, and Zoe, have naked ownership of that account. What does that mean? That means who cares other than there's no second step up in basis. What? Like,
Okay.
we don't need to
No,
talk about
okay,
that. We
no,
don't need to talk
but
about naked ownership. It's just bad. It's objectively bad.
okay, it's not bad as though like they don't have it, but it is terrible in the fact
For
that
tax treatment, it's
yes,
horrible.
it is the worst.
If you trust your spouse, don't do it. Just write in your will, I'm not doing that.
Correct.
I'm leaving everything
Now,
outright to
again,
my spouse.
I think it's important to be clear that we're not offering legal advice here, right?
Correct.
It could be
We're
beneficial.
doing a 30 seconds or less explanation
It could
and
be
fail.
beneficial in your situation. However, the most important situation here, well, like you
don't
said,
think so.
if you don't trust your spouse,
Yeah, then make a trust.
well,
There's
fair.
better planning
Correct.
for that
Correct.
goal too.
But ultimately, I think the issue is this: is that if we have a whole bunch of stocks, right? We have a nice portfolio. Okay,
Let's just say we're 100% NVIDIA. Make it easy. Let's go.
perfect, 100%.
We're not. I promise. Go on.
It's terrifying.
I would never do that.
Okay, so Eric goes on his dream snowboarding vacation. I was nice to you, but he's, I don't know, gone into a tree. I don't know what he did.
That's sad.
He was not responsible. I'm very mad. But now 50% of our NVIDIA is mine and mine alone. And then it will follow whatever treatment I have in my will. The other 50% belongs to the kids, the 3 kids.
Mhm.
However, I have usufruct of it, which basically means I get to
You can
use
do whatever
it.
she wants. You can wheel and deal with it.
I can use it. Now, I'm supposed to still remain accountable to the kids and make sure that the value is still
You're going to preserve the corporate, the principal.
corpus. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so all sounds fine and good,
There's no
right?
real
I still get to
restrictions,
use it. Everything's great. So upon Eric's death, right? What happens to the community property basis, Eric?
Full step up. So if we bought NVIDIA at $1 a share,
Perfect.
now it is worth $100 a share.
Yep.
That's $99 of capital gains that we would have had to pay
Per
at
share.
our capital gains rate,
Yeah.
right? No, we don't.
Correct.
Community property, full step up. Now it's worth 100. So you're like, cool, just 100 in your wife's account because you said this kid's account's terrible? No, it's 100 there too.
Yeah.
However,
so 50%. So my account has now, every single share has a basis of 100. In the second account, the one that belongs to the kids, but that I get to
use a
use,
fructuary account. Yes,
correct? Every single share in there is also $100. Beautiful thing.
ma'am. Love
Amazing.
it. That's amazing. That's really
Okay.
cool.
Wonderful. I go to Universal. I'm on Universal. Something went wrong and I fell off the Velocicoaster and now I am gone as well.
Yikes.
So, now the kids have access to both accounts. So again, there's account number 1, which was my fully owned 50% shares or 50% of our NVIDIA. So every share was worth $100, right?
Yep.
Basis was 100. What is NVIDIA worth now?
Now it's worth $300 a share.
Beautiful. NVIDIA is now worth $300 a share.
It's great.
My half, my 50%, gets a full step up in basis. So every share that is in mine, before it goes to, or when it goes to the kids, the basis is now $300. So they are not having to realize any capital gains on my
account. They love it.
Correct.
They're thrilled.
Now we have account number 2. Account number 2.
That usufructuary account with naked ownership that the kids already had naked ownership of.
Now, that account, the basis remains at 100 and not 300.
Yikes.
Why? Because they were the owners, not me.
Yep.
If the spouse was the owner, then at the point in time that it's transferring ownership to the kids or to the next generation, it would get a full step up in basis. However, for all intents and purposes, even though I got to use it, they didn't get to touch it. It's been mine. I've used it as though it's mine. It really belongs to them as the naked owners. And so they get no step up in basis. So they are realizing $200 of capital gains on each share.
Per share.
Yeah.
Not great.
No.
Don't like that.
No.
And it truly doesn't serve a ton of purpose. But anyway, we could talk. We can get granular about that. If anyone wants to give us a call,
whole episode of that.
we could give it.
But it's an
the point is
caveat for Louisiana.
Yeah, exactly. So the point is, look, if we're looking into estate planning, that's low hanging fruit. There's almost no reason not to do it.
Correct. So I mean, honestly, if you are either nearing or in that sandwich generation position right now, or you're kind of eyeing down the line that maybe your parents have some health issues or you're starting to see some declines there. Maybe they're fine right now and this is the perfect time to take advantage of putting everything in order before anything happens.
Let's get some POAs and wills. That's not
There's
a huge
lot of things to do, but and we've talked about this before, having somebody who's trusted who will interface with the various professionals that are needed to make sure that you have a personalized, holistic financial plan to move forward with, to offer both peace of mind to the first generation, the parents, to our sandwich generation, and to kind of free up or take some of what's off, on your plate off of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have professionals who are going to be able to necessarily help shoulder the emotional burden the same way, but hopefully it'll free up some of that emotional capacity by removing some of those other responsibilities.
Absolutely. Love it. Real quick point. I know we've gone over. We're trying to wrap.
Go ahead.
I apologize.
No, you're good.
Real quick point. I would also try to, if your parents are comfortable with it, try to participate in the meetings with the planners, right? Because you'll probably have a sense, and they might too. But it never hurts to participate if they're willing to let you, right? So you can sit in the meetings and see what kind of things the advisors or planners are pitching, or salesmen and women.
Absolutely.
If you're in one of these annuity meetings, right? Like they go to the seminar without your knowledge.
Go to Fleming's with them.
Yeah. Go sit in on that. Maybe enjoy your meal.
Exactly.
And then go, sit in on the annuity meeting and be like, hey, look, explain to me, walk me through exactly why this is a good idea. And let's have good answers, but just try to critically think about what exactly is going on here. How do they benefit from this relationship?
For honesty too, I think that I know that when my dad started having health issues, I insisted on going to the doctor's appointments.
That's a good idea.
Right?
That's a good idea.
So having another set of eyes, of ears, it's a really emotionally stressful situation for the people that are involved. So having somebody who's slightly more removed, I think is always a good idea, having more people in there. And we've done planning with multi-generational situations as well. So being able to have a more comprehensive view on both the situation of the parent and the situation of that kind of middle generation can actually help strengthen the plan. So there's really nothing to be lost by participating in that process. I agree.
Correct.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate, review, or subscribe to support the show. And if you have any topics you'd like discussed or financial problems you'd like solved, reach out to us at podcast@equilibriumfp.com or visit our website, equilibriumfp.com.
Till next time.
Thanks, guys.